You tell yourself you'll try something new tonight, a new show, a new movie. But somehow your finger stops, and you press play on the same story you've already seen, again. And maybe a small voice in your head whispers, "Why do I always do this?" Psychology has an answer, and it's more meaningful than you think. Familiar stories give the brain a sense of safety. The human brain is wired for survival, not entertainment. New stories mean new conflicts, unexpected emotional spikes, uncertainty. For a tired or overwhelmed mind that feels like work. When you rewatch a familiar show, your brain already knows. No sudden shocks, no emotional ambush, no uncomfortable surprises. This creates neural calm. Your nervous system relaxes because nothing feels threatening. That sense of safety is powerful, especially for people who live with anxiety or chronic stress. Rewatching activates emotional regulation. When emotions feel messy, the brain looks for balance. Rewatching something familiar helps regulate mood, heart rate, breathing, emotional intensity. Why? Because the brain isn't busy predicting outcomes, it's simply experiencing. This is why rewatching often happens. Late at night, after emotional conversations, during burnout, when someone feels mentally exhausted. It's not procrastination. It's emotional self-care. Predictability restores a sense of control. Life rarely follows a script. People disappoint. Plans collapse. Emotions shift without warning. But a familiar movie? The ending never changes. The characters behave the same way. The story always resolves. Psychologically, this gives the mind a controlled environment. For people who feel powerless in real life, rewatching restores a sense of stability, reliability, emotional order. Even small control can feel incredibly grounding. Rewatching strengthens parasocial bonds. When you watch a show repeatedly, characters become more than characters. Your brain begins to treat them as familiar faces, emotional companions, predictable personalities. This is called a parasocial relationship. Your brain releases similar emotional responses as it does with real social connections. That's why certain characters feel comforting, their voices feel familiar, their presence reduces loneliness. For people who feel socially disconnected, rewatching can quietly fill emotional gaps. Nostalgia is a psychological anchor. Many rewatch shows are tied to a specific time in life. Childhood, teenage years, a period before loss, stress, or responsibility. When you rewatch them, your brain reactivates memories, not just of the show, but of who you were back then. Psychologists say nostalgia increases feelings of meaning, reduces loneliness, strengthens emotional identity. You're not escaping the present. You're reconnecting with your emotional roots. Emotional depth changes with rewatching. The first time you watch a story, you focus on the plot. The second or third time, you notice subtle emotions, hidden dialogue meanings, character psychology, emotional subtext. This allows deeper emotional processing. People who rewatch often have high emotional awareness, reflective thinking styles, strong empathy. The story becomes a mirror, not just entertainment. Rewatching helps the brain rest. New content requires decision-making, attention, memory processing. Familiar content requires almost none. That's why rewatching often happens when people are mentally drained, overstimulated, burned out. Your brain is saying, "I don't want stimulation. I want rest." And that's valid. Imagine someone who had a chaotic childhood. Arguments, unpredictable emotions, no consistency. As an adult, they rewatch the same shows repeatedly. Not because they lack imagination, but because consistency feels safe. The show becomes something life never was. Reliable. when rewatching becomes unhealthy. Rewatching is healthy until it becomes avoidance. It may become a problem if someone avoids all new experiences, uses it to numb emotions completely, withdraws from real-life responsibilities. Balance matters. Comfort should support life, not replace it. So if you find yourself rewatching the same shows and movies, remember this. You're not stuck in the past. You're regulating your emotions. You're calming your nervous system. You're creating safety where you need it most. Sometimes healing isn't dramatic. Sometimes it's watching something familiar and letting your mind finally rest.